We are at the final two matches of round one of the teams category in the Phoenix Festival Tournament. Today we will be going over matches 7 and 8. Links in the description down below so you guys can go there, vote for who you think would win, and give your reasoning as to why. Whether it's due to how the teams work together, the cohesion between their semblances, their weapons, the advantages that they have, etc. Be as descriptive as you like. I love seeing how different matchups may go, how different teams may pair off against one another, but a reason does have to be given nonetheless. Now, our first match of the day is Team Burns, which consists of Mercury Black, Roman Torchwick, Neapolitan, and Emerald Sustrai versus Team Stark, which is, of course, Summer Rose, Tai Yang, Crow Bronwyn, and Raven Bronwyn, and they are fighting in the Geyser and Desert biomes. Now, some assumptions have to be made with Team Stark. I put this up to a vote earlier this week as to whether we should replace Summer Rose and Tai Yang, but over 50% of the people did vote to keep Summer Rose and Tai Yang, to keep Team Stark together. Had the voting been different and keeping them together got less than 50% of the votes, I would have switched them anyways to whichever option it was, but Team Stark is being kept together. So we have to make some assumptions for Summer and Tai. Tai is likely a brawler like Yang. He is likely the one who has trained Yang. Crow was the one who trained RWBY. And Summer is likely a speed fighter similar to RWBY, but we're not going to assume that she uses a scythe. We can't make assumptions about either of their weapons as we just simply don't know. And the same goes for their semblances. We can assume that they are as skilled as Raven and Crow if they had their semblances and weapons, but since they don't, we are going to have to knock them back a notch. Now, this also makes sense because Tai has been a teacher at Signal Academy while Crow has still been out in the field continuing to fight. So Crow is likely more of a honed fighter. Not that Tai is rusty, but he just hasn't had as much experience in the field. Crow is probably a better fighter at this point in time than Tai is currently, would beat him one-on-one, that type of thing. So we're going to assume that Summer and Tai are just a notch below Raven and Crow, as Raven and Crow have been continuously fighting up until this point. But as they match up against Team Burns, they are going to have a difficult time in some senses, at the very least. Mercury Black being a trained assassin with Teleria and the wind dust that it has, Roman Torchwick and his ability to counter opponents' attacks, block and counterattack. Emerald Sustrai with her ability of hallucinations cannot be underestimated, though she can only use it at single target at a time. Maybe two people, but that would give her a headache in the middle of battle, which is not a situation you want to be in. And then, of course, there's Neapolitan, probably one of the more skilled members of Team Burns, and would be able to counter a lot of things that other opponents are doing. Her versus Crow would be a matchup I kind of want to see in Volume 8, though I don't think they're ever going to encounter each other, but I would love to see Neo parrying and trying to use Crow's momentum against himself and use things like that. But the thing that's going to play a major factor in this fight is that Raven, being a member of Team Stark, has a kindred link to all of them and can use her portals all throughout this battlefield, can make a kindred link to, or a portal to, any one of her teammates, any one of her allies, and the team can be jumping through them wherever they want to be and mix and match whoever they want to be faced off against. If they want to gang up on one member of Team Burns at a single point, they can do that and send attacks through there as well. Raven, with her dust capabilities, could send dust attacks through a portal that she makes to her teammate, and if they have coordination, they could dive out of the way, etc., and just deal damage against opponents like that. Also, Crow has his misfortune, and if he directs that at his opponents, at Team Burns, that's going to lead to some unfortunate situations for them on top of that. So Team Stark does outclass Team Burns, even with Summer and Tai being knocked down a notch, because Raven and Crow are extremely skilled, and their semblances work very well together and against opponents. Raven, with her portal creation, makes Team Stark extremely powerful and versatile when it comes to moving around the battlefield, and Crow can just make bad luck happen for his opponents, so Team Stark would end up taking this one overall. Moving on to the last match of round one of the teams category is probably the highest tier match we would see, as it's Team Witch, consisting of Arthur Watts, Tyrion Callows, Cinderfall, and Hazel Reinhardt, you know, Salem's Inner Circle, versus Team Goop, which is Glinda Goodwitch, Ozpin, Bartholomew Oobleck, and Peter Port. So the professors of Beacon Academy, also potentially Ozpin's Inner Circle on top of that. And they are fighting in the desert and mountain biomes. And again, Lady Luck was in Cinder's hands as she rolled the desert biome. So she has the unlimited amount of ammo when it comes to using her Scorching Caress, creating glass out of the desert, and could use that to her advantage. Oobleck could also manipulate the sand in the desert using the heat from his thermos to create glass as well, but wouldn't be able to manipulate it as well as Cinder. Oobleck and Port, though, even though we don't know their semblances, we know their weapons. Oobleck has his thermos, flamethrower, bat, etc., and Port has his blunderbuss, his blowhard, which is an axe that is also an old school rifle on top of that, so both of them have some ranged capabilities. Glinda, with her semblance of telekinesis, cannot be underestimated. She faced off against Cinder before in an exhibition match, not to mention also in the RWBY series, and it was determined that Glinda would end up winning that fight against Cinder, that she just has so much versatility with her telekinesis, able to manipulate anything in the environment, and being into the desert and mountain biomes, where Cinder could manipulate the sand, turning it into glass, Glinda could just huck boulders at Cinder. So, you know, Glinda does have a bit of an advantage there. When it comes to Arthur Watts, he could manipulate the biomes to however he wishes, but that he would have to be given the time to do that. If anyone on Team Goop was familiar with Watts or knew about Watts' capabilities, they likely wouldn't, based on the encounters that they've had in the RWBY series, which is none at this point. Then Watts might be able to use the biomes to his advantage. Not really much he can do with the desert and mountain biomes on its own. He could switch it to the lava biomes or the anti-gravity biomes, but I don't really think that would work that well for his team overall. And then, of course, there's Hazel Reinhardt. That is the probably toughest person to take out on Team Witch, and the thing is, I think people overhype Hazel just a little bit much in this scenario that we are setting up. We are not fighting to the death, so they're not trying to kill Hazel, just break his aura. Now, in Volume 5, when Hazel was fighting, he was a powerhouse on the battlefield. Everyone was throwing everything they had at him, and he wasn't going down. But his aura was still broken. That charged up attack that Nora had against Hazel did break his aura, as Weiss's Queen Lancer was able to spear him in the gut. So his aura was broken and he was able to be injured, meaning that his aura regeneration is very strong, but if they can deal a strong enough blow to break his aura, that's it for the tournament. Fighting to the death would be a completely different scenario with Hazel, but in this case, I think Team Goop does have a reasonable chance. With Oobleck and Port and Glinda Goodwitch having ranged capabilities, they would be able to hold them at bay fairly well. Yes, Tyrion does have his range capabilities, Watts has his gun as well, but there's only a limited amount of ammunition in that, and Cinder, using the desert with the glass and also her midnight, Glinda could overpower that, so it's fairly even when it comes to range. And Ozpin, although it did seem like he was kind of afraid of Hazel in Volume 5 when Hazel was going on his rampage, I don't think that it was Ozpin himself that was afraid, just that, you know, he was in the body of a little cinnamon roll, being Oscar, and Hazel would destroy him. Just ragdoll Oscar and would just murder the poor child, which would have happened in Volume 5, but if it was Ozpin himself versus Hazel, I think Ozpin would be able to take him, at least match his strength. Hazel, of course, has the dust capabilities, launching fire dust, electricity dust, possibly other dust types on top of that, but we haven't seen him use that up to this point, so he would be a tough opponent to take out, but I think Team Goop has a chance. Overall, though, looking at the teams in general, I think that Team Witch does have a slight advantage over Team Goop with, you know, all the abilities that they have. If Tyrion Kalos is able to get close, he's able to start disrupting people's aura, which would likely reduce a person's aura. He doesn't have the ability to break aura. That is not Tyrion's semblance, only aura disruption, so that wouldn't win the fight right there, but he would be able to start, you know, dealing physical damage to opponents, weakening them in that way, weakening their aura, and I think Team Witch overall does have the advantage over Team Goop, but it would not be an easy match, and would be one I would love to see animated at some point in time. All of Team Witch fighting together at the very least. I hope that happens at some point in the RWBY series, assuming, of course, members of that team don't get killed off in Volume 8, which also might likely happen with 3 of them being in Atlas. But getting off topic here, hopefully you guys are enjoying these matches so far. The voting will be live for a little more than 24 hours after the posting of this video, so plenty of time to get your votes in, pick who you think will win in each matchup, and give your reasoning as to why. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to seeing the results this weekend. Make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with the Phoenix Festival Tournament and the rest of the RWBY content going to be released on this channel. Tweet me at PhoenixKnight7. Join our Discord server linked in the description down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.